Peace, salam, hello, what's up? Anwar Bey here, founder of Mind Traveler Design, a video game entertainment art studio, creator of PLASMAworlds, the illustrated story series. Welcome to PLASMAworlds. Today I'm going to be providing you with a video audio telling of the latest part from the short story series, PLASMAworlds, A Love That Hurts. Follow us, subscribe, become a part of this journey at www.plasmaworlds.com. It's there that after you sign up, you'll get all the latest updates, all the latest notifications, and be the first to know about every piece that releases from PLASMAworlds. Also, you can follow along with this video audio telling by going to medium.com/PLASMAworlds. And so it begins. PLASMAworlds, A Love That Hurts. Part 1, Tunnel Vision. While Captain Woldu fights with all his might to survive within the clutches of hostile surroundings, trapped deep inside the mysterious, deadly alien world of Quenseta, the worlds at large continue to exist. Their inhabitants are consumed with surviving the pursuit of their own lives, without any thought of our ever-resilient Woldu. Part 1, Tunnel Vision. The letter A. I saw her. For just a moment, the realization of her presence, though I had no idea, had turned my life completely over on itself. I was shaken to my core. I had to see her again. There was no other way to live. She was the color of the canvas of a once scorched forest floor. Her deep browns, like stirred macchiato, seamless, smooth from her fingertips to the extruding forms of her forehead. I was no longer the being I was before her existence was realized in front of my eyes. Forever, I was to be evolved because of her. I was standing there at the Hypertransit Company test station, my uniform fitting comfortably. The circles of my glasses framed all I saw, and it was like the film frame of a brilliantly lit movie scene that she entered. And just like in a movie that one cannot pause, the frame changed. In one moment, she was there, across the hall, a short sprint of a distance away, clear in view. In the next moment, she was obscured. And then, in the next frame, she was gone. From just the sight of her, brief, I felt like I'd been teleported to a new reality. I was enthralled by some unknown energy that only I was present to. I was enlightened by the possibility of the more, dampened in its moistened bliss, aglow. I was drifting inside a fog of curiosity, and I needed to know more. All I could see in that moment, inside the missing blur from within the fog, was the seamless smooth of her melanin complexion. She still is all I can see today. The letter B. It has been 3 days now, and there hasn't been a moment in my mind in which thoughts of her haven't occupied. I know nothing about this woman, yet she reveals so brilliantly inside the space of my mind, not as a physical being, but as an aura of energy I cannot escape, nor would I want to. The connection is beyond explanation. I fill my days with searching for her, by all means most rational, the internet. Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Yellow Pages, Google, Facebook, and all assorted sites. Failed attempts, all of them a waste. She is surely not the easiest to find, or findable at all. I am lost. I have not given up on her. I never plan to. The reality is, I have no idea how to fill my sights with the presence of her again. So by the only means left, I'm just simply looking for her. It matters not where I am, who I'm with, or what I'm doing. I'm always looking for her, hoping for a chance, always. The letter C. Where I was once consumed with the work, I have now become astray. I have only a handful of controlled flight tests left before I go completely automatic. I work for the Hypertransit Company. Currently, I am operating the systems of the world's fastest flight trains. At this point in my training, I am safely controlling the navigation systems using just 35% manual and 65% auto assist, a record among our small elite group of mechanical engineers. Their air transport shuttles run a steady speed of 600 miles per hour at full power, with up to 2,000 passengers or 600 pounds inside each unit. The transport operation is run through transparent air tunnels that are controlled with custom traction programs. The connections are made possible via a specific balancing of heat, air, vacuum space, and the genius behind the stabilization systems is the use of absent void particles that are mined from the shadow forms of the moon. A mixing of science and magic, though we never say that in public. I am the most experienced operator on our team. The secret to my unmatched ability is the constant optimization tinkering I perform. After every flight, I adjust the navigation, airflow systems, and time target sensors to be just a little bit better. At this point, the flights I conduct are so smooth in the absence of turbulence, gravitational pull, and speed shifts that our measuring systems cannot even tell the difference from when the air shuttles are moving or are still. After this weekend's flight cycles, all system operations will be able to be conducted using just the AI my team has created and I have perfected. To accomplish this level of execution has always taken the whole of my thoughts and concentration. Yet, in addition, I have done this work for over 3 years. So for me, at this point, it's like breathing, easy work. Today's last flight will be in the night. We don't usually run air transport tests at nighttime, but the director of the Velocity team is on site tonight. So our aim is to blow his mind. The letter D. I thought I had become comfortable with the distraction that thoughts of her continue to cause. That a balance between my signature focus that my whole team relied on and the fog of her world I was so completely submerged in had been solved for. But the reality is, I was not prepared for that nighttime run. The day's shift had already run 14 hours. And as alert as I thought I was, the fact of the matter is that thoughts of her had only consumed me more. On that dark night, from within the pilot's cabin, through the large windows of the air shuttle, and over the track's lighted depths, I was pulled towards a powerful presence. It had to be her. It called to me in a voice I had never heard before. The lights from within the air tubes passed through my peripheral like warp speeds that fused together into a singular blue neon stream. I refused to allow my attention to waver, but it felt like everything had slowed around me and I wasn't in control of it all. A daydream. I could not escape her call. Staring outside the window, distracted, we were traveling at max velocity, speeds tyrannical, and though I was staring in the direction in which we shot, through space and time, I was looking for her. I searched with what felt like laser-tight detail, giving myself to the feeling of her presence and the ideas that I was somehow so close to having her within my arms. Until I crashed. The letter E. When I opened my eyes, I was far from the flight path I was just centered so perfectly within. I had no idea how much time had passed, but it was still night. I was now on the ground, or so I thought. I was surrounded by patches of grass, dirt, and concrete, but none of it was actually touching me, because I was floating just inches above. None of it made sense. I was disoriented. Magic, I'd concluded. When I attempted to stand, I felt like every muscle in my body tinged with an overwhelming specific type of pain that shook my head to pure turmoil, one that knew no limits. So I instead just continued to lay there, quiet. With just my eyes, to the maximum of my ability, I looked around. I tried to see. I tried to find something that could be of use. But from that limited view, I could see nothing but the natural debris of the earth. So I listened. And within the focus of my ears, I could hear, slightly, what sounded like burning and cracking, though I could see no fire or electrical break. I thought initially that I was within the air tunnel safety zone mechanics, a force-field stabilization system linked to the air transportation system packing modules. The stabilization system was designed to keep any trash, micro debris, broken parts, or God forbid, passengers from impacting with the ground in times of disaster. Yet the more time that went by, and the fact that I was not moving, told me that this actually was not the case. I realized I was too far from the flight path to be within the force field safety stabilization tracking system. Something was terribly wrong. I attempted time and time again to see what was around me, but I couldn't see a thing outside of my immediate line of sight without attempting to move, and still, I could not move. The pain, it kept forcing me to be absolutely still. I attempted to gather my bearings. I felt like the answer for what I was to do next was near. I could feel it in my bones. Are you there? A woman's voice, one of pure melody, filled my ears. I attempted to look around, like as if I'd forgotten the results of all previous attempts. I scorned myself for having such lack of self-control. Aware? Awake? Okay? I got you. It was hard to hear. The voice seemed to fade in and out of my consciousness. I continued to see nothing new. Then I felt her touch, or I thought I felt it. No one was next to me. Her touch. It had to have been her touch. It felt like her voice. It emitted the sensation of pure comfort. Pulses of purity filled my body like waves of hope. And then, from head to toe, I rose without moving at all. I got you. The voice. I could hear it. So clearly now. It was angelic. This time, she was much closer. The touch. Her touch. Still present. This time, when I looked up in an attempt to see over my head, I could see a gentle silhouette upside down. The view of her was without details, but it was better than the nothing I was seeing just moments before. Her form was upon me now. Everything still was a blur. My glasses must have jumped from my face during the crash. But just as my vision was a blur, The figure became closer, and my vision surprisingly found itself, clicking into focus. I could see her face. Beautiful. More beautiful than I could have ever imagined. The pureness of her forms, the way the hijab wrapped perfectly around her crown, the painterly shifts in hue of her glowing brown skin. She was all I had been searching for, the woman from 3 days ago. I am Boy Philo. Trust me, this looks worse than it actually is. We will get you patched up quicker than flies on a hot mill, she said to me, while smiling in a way that made me realize that I had been feeling her words just as well as I had been hearing them. The letter F. He was a robot, and so was she. His hardware and circuits had been damaged severely in the crash. He couldn't move his body because he had barely any body left. He could not see that his lower half had been ripped apart from the rest of his now legless, pelvisless body. And it was nowhere in sight, even for someone that could see the surroundings. There was no magical power making him float above the ground below him. His spine parts had gotten tangled in a destroyed power line. He was hanging there. Boy Pilo, the woman he'd been looking for all those days, was a service robot. She had been summoned as a private contractor by the hypertransit company to clean up the wreckage and tend to all corporate robots found. Though barely, he was the only one still operating. The letter G. He stared into her eyes and greeted her. She spoke to him in a tone that filled what was left of his remaining body delightfully, triggering what was left of his remaining physical sensor components to pure euphoria. I have seen you before today, he said to her. She did her best to unhook his tangled body from the toppled over electrical poles. With caring hands, she pulled him down slowly, gently, in an attempt to preserve what was left of him. He paid no attention to the parts of himself that didn't make it down. He couldn't stop looking into her eyes. They were of a beautiful symphony of moving micro machinery. From his perspective, there were galaxies in there. Galaxies that he couldn't wait to explore. I bet you have, she said, her face unmoving, focused. Her expression comprised of the same focused smile that filled him with such delight. Yes, and before he could even begin to tell Boy Pilo the story of how he'd fallen in love with her just a few days prior, his entire system shut down. The letter H. His body was passed through what appeared as an assembly line of robots, from one service robot to the next. They were a moderately sized group of identical model service robot units. They were hired through an app as private contractors to search the area for parts and clear up the wreckage from the crash. They were hired through an app as private contractors to search the area for parts and clear up the wreckage from the crash, a cleanup crew. His robot body was deposited into a private mobile disposal unit. Inside, what was left of his body was torn apart into meticulous portions that varied in size. From micro to macro, he was separated into categories of specific parts. Few parts were labeled as valuable. The rest of him was simply mixed together, like vegetables in a blender, with other miscellaneous parts pulled from the crash, that alone equated to either limited or of no notable value. He and all of it was crunched down, melted, and then hauled off to the recycle factory to be reconstructed as anew. The letter I. the parts are always worth more than the actual product. It is crucial to their business plan that they collect that in which you consider to be broken, outdated, worthless. For them, it is the lifeblood of their success. Complete. Part 1, tunnel vision. And so there you have it. Again, look us up at www.plasmaworlds.com. Sign up, join the journey. Thank you for joining me today. That's Plasma Worlds. I'm Anwar Bey. And until the next part, peace.